There was a man, and he went to an Anglican church, and he said and he asked to see the vicar. And he said to the vicar, my dog died, and I would like to do a Christian burial for him. And the vicar said to him, well, I'm sorry, I really am. I'm sorry about your dog, but we Anglicans, we don't do funerals for dogs. Maybe try the Baptist church down the road. They'll do anything. Or maybe the Pentecostals. The man turned away. He was sad. He said, I understand. I do. I understand. I'm sorry you won't do my dog's funeral, but I understand. I'll try the Baptist church. But I would like to ask you a question. How much would be appropriate, if the Baptist church does the funeral, how much would be appropriate to give them as a memorial if they do the funeral? I was thinking of a gift of, say, $15,000. Do you think that's enough? And the vicar says to the guy, hold on a minute now. You didn't tell me your dog was Anglican. Did John leave the snare drum on? Yes, he did. You didn't tell me your dog was Anglican. All right. Funny. The reading this morning about give unto Caesar what is Caesar's is actually in 3 of the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And this short exchange between Jesus and the representatives of the Pharisees was actually concerning taxes. The group had come to trap him in his own words. You know, because if Jesus would have said, oh no, you know, everything belongs to God. You don't have to, you know, forget about Caesar. Give to God. Can you imagine, right? It would have been like, oh, big deal. So they were just licking their chops, going, okay, we can't wait to trap this guy, right? But he sees through their deception, and he asks them why they're testing him. Then he proceeds to blow their minds when he speaks those famous words, render unto Caesar, give to Caesar, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Now, and this short exchange between Jesus and this group of people begs the question for us today of how do we live in a nation with our civil religion while keeping our faith religion number 1. Faith religion, civil religion. The nation, as we know, takes on its own identity, and it becomes a collective civil religion, if you will. But how do we prevent our civil religion, our political awareness, political opinions, political activism from becoming higher than our faith religion? Because if it does, if the civil religion ends up here and our faith religion is down here, then it becomes a golden calf or an idol. But is it not tempting to do just that in today's political environment, in an election year, and particularly this one that seems to be a little more combative than in the past with all the civil unrest? Is it not tempting to get so caught up in the drama that it supersedes or pushes our faith to a back seat? To me, it brings to mind Jesus' words when he says, we are to be in this world, but not what? Of. In this world, yes, we have to live here. This is where we live, like it or not. But we don't have to be of this world. Jesus prayed this for his disciples in John, and ultimately for us in various places in the Gospels. But here's the rub. Here's the interesting thing about that. Of course, our treasure lies beyond. It does. But we're not to have our heads so in the clouds, so focused on heaven, that we lose track of the kingdom work to be done. We're not supposed to just constantly be going like this, like, oh, well, Lord, I love you. I can't wait to get to heaven. That's all I'm going to talk about. I've been baptized. I got my fire insurance. I'm good to go. What happens if you're doing that? What are you missing? Like life, right? Kingdom life. You're missing Chris sitting in the lawn chair crying because you're so focused like this. Or some people, this is going off script, but some people are so focused even on this good book that they miss, because this is all they do all day long. It's not a bad thing to read the Bible, but if you don't ever get your nose out of the Bible and in the real world, So there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a nice balance between the world that we can see and touch and the one that we can't. How many of you know, I know you know the word semiotics because I've used it before, but you might not remember what it is. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and images. And Jesus was a master semiotician, a master of semiotics. In his parables and in the images that he would invoke and his answers to questions, he would use signs a lot. Here he does it again, even today. He uses semiotics. When they ask him the question, they're trying to trap him about the coin. Notice that he doesn't give a 3-part sermon on giving. Or he doesn't pull out the tax forms or the tax laws of the day. But what does he do instead? He uses a coin as a symbol. And Jesus did this a lot. Remember in Luke 17, where the disciples had come to Jesus and asked him to increase their faith? They said, Lord, please, increase our faith. We want to be more like you. And what did he do? He didn't tell them to start a brand new Alpha course. I asked this at first service and I was kind of amazed. Did any of you know Alpha? It's a course kind of for new Christians or Christians that want to kind of bone up on their faith. But Jesus didn't tell, when they said increase our faith, he didn't say, we'll start an Alpha course. Right? He didn't say, or study, you need to study harder. Or he didn't say, you need to pray harder. He didn't do any of that. What did he do? He showed them one of the tiniest seeds out there, which is a mustard seed. He showed them a mustard seed, a semiotic, a sign, and said, if you have faith like this, you can't even see it, it's enough. It's enough. Can you imagine how relieved the disciples must have felt? Can you imagine how relieved we must feel when we hear those words? That all you need is the faith of a mustard seed. Jesus then compares that mustard seed to a mighty mountain and says, faith like this tiny little mustard seed can move a majestic mountain. And by the way, that mustard seed too, mustard trees or bushes can get huge. They're like a weed, thank God, because I love mustard, especially spicy brown. I don't know, does spicy brown mustard grow that way, or is it they make it later? I don't know. There's a word for the ages. I don't know. Is there a spicy brown mustard tree? I don't know. But your faith, that tiny, can move a mountain. So what does Jesus do in this case today with the coin? He asks the closest person, hey fellow, give me a coin out of your pocket. So the guy grabs a denarius out of his pocket and he hands the coin to Jesus. And Jesus asks, whose image is on that coin? Caesar's. Then give it to Caesar. But give to God what is God's. Give to God what is God's. Now we may gloss over that last part. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. Caesar to Caesar, God to God's. We may go over that, gloss over that, because we might be uncertain as to what exactly that means. What does it mean to give to God, right? But for certain, we know this. We are God's. We are God's, so we give ourselves to God. We're created in the image of God, so we do not owe Caesar ourselves, but we do owe ourselves to God. Jesus, time and time again, answers questions like this in powerful, unforgettable images. Give your taxes to Caesar, but you give yourself, your essence, your soul, your life to God. But then the question comes up too, is like, and this, by the way, this is not a stewardship sermon by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a little bit of that, a hint of that mixed in there. But how do faith and finances come together then? Well, there was a gentleman, and I had to spell it out phonetically because I always forget how to pronounce it. Moses Maimonides was his name. Moses Maimonides came up with an 8-tiered or 8-level, the 8 levels of giving, way back in the 12th century. How do we live gratefully and gift-givingly to God? Well, this is what I won't bore you with them all, but I'll do number 8 and number 1. And these are in descending. So the 8th way is this: when giving is done grudgingly. That's the lowest you can get. Because it's like, here comes the plate again. Rather, well, yeah, I'll throw a couple bucks in. Oh, it's Red Hat Sunday. Are you kidding me? I just threw my last $4 in. That, right? Grudgingly. Get this though, the highest level of giving is helping a person before they're even in need. Before they're even in need, helping them so they never get to a place of neediness. Treating them like part of the community, making the needy, the disenfranchised, the unloved part of a community. Loving them as we would a family member. That's number 1. That's the best way to give. Interestingly enough, when Jesus was sharing that final Passover meal with his disciples, we call it the Last Supper. We hear some of the last words that Jesus spoke each Sunday when I do what's called the words of institution. But here's an interesting fact. It is linguistically impossible to say, "This is my body," in Aramaic or Hebrew, which undoubtedly Jesus was speaking. It's impossible. Now, of course, when Jesus took the bread, we know what he meant. But he more than likely said this. This is me. And he wasn't just looking at the bread. He was looking at this. This is me. He looked on the bread. He looked on the community of his closest friends, those that he had sung with, laughed with, seen death, raised dead, miracles, this group of people that he had shared his life with. And he says, this is me. This is my body. This is me. Not just the bread, but this table fellowship. Not just our cronies either, but with the stranger, the needy, the disenfranchised. This is me now in all of you. In all of you. Heck, it could even be the original This Is Us. For those of you that like the show, this was the original This Is Us. Even before the hit show. What he was saying was, keep doing this. Not just eating the bread, keep doing this. Being me. Loving like me. Table fellowship. Loving these people. Not just eating the bread and drinking the wine, but keep doing this. Keep being Jesus. Keep bringing thy kingdom come. That's what he talked about. So maybe now, from now on, maybe occasionally you'll think that when you hear the words, this is my body given for you. Jesus actually saying, this is me. This is me. Keep doing this. Keep loving. At one time, the City Temple in London, there was a man by the name of Emil Mettler, and he owned a restaurant there. He was also a close friend of Albert Schweitzer, and he was well known for never allowing a Christian to pay for a meal, never allowing a Christian worker to pay for a meal. But once he did happen to have the cash register open when he was making change for a paying customer, and the secretary of the London Mission Society happened to be standing there as he was making change, and he was astonished to see among the bills and the coins a big, like 9-inch long nail. So he asked Mettler, what's the nail for? And Mettler explained, I keep this nail with my money to remind me of the price that Christ paid for my salvation and what I owe him in return. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. Amen. Amen, Christian.